Hopefully before the day is over, we'll get another view of a front view of this church. We're in beautiful downtown Churubusco. It's the 18th day of November 2022, and we're here to take a little tour around this Immaculate Heart Church here in Churubusco and find out a little bit about the history and the future of this church that's been here since about 1880, I believe. And it's right here in the heart of Churubusco, so you can't miss it. So I'm going to chat with all these people. We got 5 people here so far, and they're all going to have at least a half hour worth of things to say, so we might be here for a while. We are inside, and right in front of the altar, and all the religious articles have been taken out of here. So I don't feel I'm being blasphemous by having my cap on here in church, because it's cold in here. And we have the president of the Clinton County Historical Association with us. What's your name, young lady?
My name is Jerry Favreau.
All right, and in today's Press Republican, there's an article in the Senior Sentinel, and it mentions this church right here, and it warned at the end there's more to come, too. So.
Yes, more to come, yep.
Okay, we're here because you were letting me know that there are things going on here where people are trying to keep this from becoming all but a memory here. People are trying to preserve this this building. It's no longer a church, hasn't been used as a church for several years now.
After Father McCaslin died.
Yes, I was here for his funeral mass. That's available online. I was right up in that area there, and it was a very nice ceremony. And Father McCaslin was one heck of a nice guy, too.
Yes, yeah. Yes, he was. He was very, very good to my mother, yep.
Yeah. So, why are we here today, Jerry?
Well, first of all, I'd like to mention that when I grew up here in Churubusco, my mother and I lived with my grandparents on a farm about a mile north of the village on the Cement Road, which is
Not the Legree Road.
189. No, they used to call it the Cement Road because it was made out of cement.
Uh-huh.
And when I lived here, people will recognize me better as Geraldine Watson, daughter of Evelyn Watson, who was a town historian for a number of years, school nurse teacher in Ellenburg, and lived most of her life here in Churubusco. So this church holds a lot of memories for me and my family, because this is where this was our church. Right. And you know, I wasn't baptized here. I was baptized in Plattsburgh, but I made my first communion, confirmation. I got married in Champlain, but that back pew over there is where we sat every Sunday, and or every time there was something, any kind of a service here. My mother, we were here. My mother was a very devout Catholic, and if there was something going on in the church, we were here. So.
Okay. As you know, the Diocese of Augsburg is 150 years old this year. This parish goes back beyond that by a little bit, because 150 years ago, according to my math, would be about 1872. You know, and this church was built shortly thereafter. Similar situation in my hometown of Champlain, where St. Mary's was, they laid the cornerstone in 1885, and it was completed and dedicated in 1887, but they did have a church prior to that where the people went, and the same thing was happening here, and this church was built in the 1880s, about the same time as St. Mary's was being built.
Right.
Yeah. And I think I did see an article about some construction here, and the Historical Association, I think, posted it a while back and showed a lot of photos, and you know, this is all built with local material, correct?
There's a lot of really very special reasons to save this building, and it's historic. Father Murphy traveled to Europe, came home with an idea about how to lay the church out, and you will notice about the layout of the church, he wanted his parishioners close. Mm-hmm. And he wanted them close to the altar and close to him. So most churches you go into, you have a long center aisle. Right. This one has a very short center aisle. Yeah. So he had this idea, And he brought the townspeople together, and in my article today, one thing I saw was John Humphrey, who was a devout Methodist, gave $1,000
Yeah, so
towards the
impressed.
building of the church. Yeah, so I think that was pretty special. The Gagne family, who had the largest seed potato farm in New York State, 3 generations of the Gagnes ran that potato farm, gave a lot of money to this church. St. Isidore, which is in the front lawn, was donated by them. If you look on the windows, their name is on a lot of them. And Isaac Johnson, who was the stonemason, who laid the stones here, was a former slave. I don't know if he was, I can't remember if he was a freed slave or if he was an escape, but he was a former slave who became a very fine stonemason. And he came and he laid the stones here with the help of the residents of the community. He has done churches across the border from Augsburg, and he did a building, I think it's in Waddington. We did a tour with Arch a few years ago. And this church was not on the tour because it wasn't close enough to where they were, all the other churches and buildings they were featuring. But just that, and all the residents of the community stepped up. It's all the wood here and the church was all supplied. It's all local. The stones were local. They were quarried. I believe I saw there was a quarry, I think, on the Campbell Road where the stones all came from. And there was so much of the heart and the soul of the residents of the community that went into this building. I have to mention the artwork. If you look around, the artwork.
Lots of artwork.
Yeah, I think I just counted 18 pieces. They were done by, I don't know, I'm pretty sure it's all of them. I read 15, but I counted 18, I think. But the artwork was all done by a professor, Angelo Metello. He had come from Italy. He was an Italian ecclesiastical artist. He had done a lot of churches in Europe, and he was on his way. He'd come here. He was on his way to Montreal, and there was something with his papers. He couldn't cross the border. So while he was here, he did murals at St. Patrick's in Rouse's Point. He did murals in St. Patrick's in Chateauguay. He did some interior work on the sanatorium in the chapel at the sanatorium in Gabriel's, and he did all of these. And I've been contacted by somebody in Italy who's doing research on him, and I'm going to be sending them photos of the art that's in this church that was done by him. That's in the late 1920s or so. Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
So he has a pretty interesting story too. Mick Jarvis from Chateauguay, I've got him on it because he didn't know that the murals at St. Patrick's and Chateauguay had done by him. Oh, okay. And I contacted Mick because we saw the lady from Italy had sent me an article out of the Chateauguay Record. And so anyway, Mick is also doing research on him.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and just for the record, that Gagne family is now probably pronounced Gagnier a lot, so that's how it's spelled, Gagnier. So,
Yeah.
But the French pronunciation, the correct pronunciation is the way
we call
you
him
say it.
Gagne. Yeah.
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 Right. Okay, so we got about 40 people here. First thing I'm going to do is pass the basket.
Oh. So there are a couple of ladies here. These are residents of the town of Clinton.
Or former.
Former.
Or former.
Former.
Yes. All
Well,
right, I'll let them introduce
I'm
themselves.
a former. I think you all still live here?
I'm a former.
Yeah, you're a former.
All right.
Yeah. But these two ladies have done a lot of research.
They
They
have
know
been wonderful.
much more about the history of this church than I do. So,
They've been wonderful.
All right, so we'll just go through the line, and then I'll come back and talk to whoever wants to talk the most here. Your name?
My name is Shirley, and I
Shirley who?
Parent.
All right.
I was born and brought up here. I was baptized here. I made my first communion here. I made my confirmation. I got married here, and I was hoping that I could have my funeral here.
But not anytime soon, no.
No.
Okay.
No, I'm too mean to give up.
Now, you probably weren't always a parent. You had
I was a
maiden name?
Recor.
A Recor.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right, so
I
all
was
the
the Recor, and my cousin and I, and another cousin, her name was Irene Nichols, and Jane Patnode. We used to come up every weekend and clean the church for Father Bernier.
Oh, isn't that nice?
We always came up every Saturday.
And had a little wine while you were here, probably?
No. No, we weren't allowed. We were too young.
Okay, moving right along. And your
Hi.
name?
So I'm Chris Todoruk. I am a part-time resident.
Part-time?
Yeah, meaning we're from Montreal, and since kids we've been here, and been coming here. And yeah, we got this group going when I started to hear, okay, first the Stations of the Cross were being removed. Then it's about the windows are going to get removed. Then we decided, yeah, we had to get involved and create a group and try to do something, because the more we looked into the history, the more fascinating it was. And the people where they are today, the families who built this, where their offspring are, they're creative politicians, they're inventors, they're all kinds of things. And, all this is going to get lost.
Yeah.
And the most important thing is that it's eligible, this building has been eligible since 2017 to be on the National Register.
So you gotta get it on there. All right, so you're part-time. What does that mean, part-time?
Meaning this is summer. Live
Summer.
in Montreal.
So you're
Montreal
not usually
full-time.
here when it's snow like it is
Oh,
today.
we're here. Just, we try to, a little less.
Not
you
as
can tell.
much.
Not as much.
All right, you another part-timer?
I am another part-timer. My name is Frances Todoruk. I'm Chris's sister. And yeah, so we've been here for over 50 years, summers mostly, but you'll still see us the other seasons of the year. And we'd like to save this for the community of Churubusco as a community center, museum, and that's basically what we're up to.
All right. Now, what's your name, young lady? I think I've seen you once or twice before.
You have, Calvin.
I have, Calvin, okay.
Bernadette Silver Nichols.
All right, Silver Nickel.
I'm a longtime resident. I was born and brought up here. This is my home. This building is my home and my children's, and I hate to see anything happen to it. It's not fair. It's not fair. It's too beautiful a place
Yeah,
to let anything happen to it.
yeah.
So I hope we can, with the help of these girls, we can do something, and perhaps you,
Perhaps me.
and letting the people know.
Yeah, so trying to spread the word here.
Yes, yes, that's very good of you.
Yeah, my first church memories my mother was from Coopersville, so we went to St. Joseph's in Coopersville. And
Yes.
if you've ever been in that church, there's a big thing that says, go to Joseph. It's E.T. at Joseph. So I used to think it was eat at Joe's, But that wasn't what it was.
Yes,
Go to Joseph on that church there. And
yes,
those are my earliest memories. And the first time I went into St. Mary's, I remember looking at it and saying, oh my gosh, how huge it was compared to St. Joseph's. So, if you're a churchgoer, you've got memories
yes.
of
Many,
churches.
many memories, and it's much too beautiful to think of taking it apart. Much, and why not spread the word and let people enjoy it?
That's right. Let's save the past.
It's worth saving and any parishioners that used to come, Father Howard was very, very pleased, and he would always talk about the church and praise it. He was so proud of it. I'd like to keep that going.
Yeah, Father McCaslin spent his retirement years here. He was.
He did. I helped him serve the very last Mass that he said by himself
Did you?
on that Sunday. And that afternoon, he went into the hospital. I was very privileged to
Yes.
help him.
There's also Father Menard, too,
And Father Menard, we
who
can't.
did a lot of work here.
Which Menard? There's 18 different Menards that are priests,
This is Father Gilbert.
Gilbert, okay.
I'll
He's the
have to
one.
show you what he did outside afterwards.
Yes, he did
Okay.
the outside, him and George the Great did the outside of the church so that it's in perfect
The
condition.
pointing,
Yes.
unbelievable. We'll have to show it to you.
So
Yes.
basically, Arch, a historical group that was here in the summer, said they were impressed by the pointing, said that it could stand up for another 100 years or so
Oh, wow.
from the outside.
Yeah, because of how it's been built and the pointing.
Right.
But the basement and any water that comes in, that's the issue. You
Yeah.
can lose it in 5 years versus
Well, you've got an unheated building, the
it's
size.
been
it's,
unheated, yeah.
Water
for
standing in the basement
number of
sometimes,
years.
yeah.
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 All right,
So
we'll be back. What?
just
Yep,
let me
yes.
add something. George Legree was a local handyman, could do anything and everything. And the ladies were pointing out to me that when he did the repointing of the church, he used ore sand from
Yes.
Lion Mountain
Yeah, that was
in what he
Uh-huh.
did.
Bob, yeah.
It's as good as today as it was when he did it and when it was originally done. And there was some other that was done by somebody else who used a different technique, and that has already started to crumble. But what George Legree did I mean, even that's special to have the ore sand from
Line
from
Mountain.
Line Mountain here, as part of the structure of this church, yeah.
So to add to this, when we visited Father Menard, it was his Father Menard asked his father how to do the mix, and it's his father that told him
Secret
that secret
recipe.
recipe.
Yeah.
And they actually had to dig out the old stuff and hose it down, and then they started to pack in, I think he said 3 or 4 truckloads from Lion
Yeah,
Mountain?
the tailings from Lion Mountain.
From
Wow.
Lion Mountain. So yeah, they all learned from a previous generation. And this is part of saving this, is even with Arch, having workshops and, whatever work and restoration that's required, new generation can learn some of the old techniques because they give workshops, and why not give it to the community? Anybody who's interested in one thing or another, there's enough around here to go around.
All right. Continuing right along.
Hi, I'm Alice Alden. We moved up to Churubusco from New Jersey in 1972.
50 years ago.
We raised our families here, and the church was a big part of our life. We love it, and we think it's a beautiful building. It's worth saving.
Okay, and
My name is Robert Alden.
you moved up here 50 years ago, I think, right?
I moved up the same time she told me to.
Yes, dear.
And I do think the building's worth saving, and it could be a beautiful community center. Whether it's a museum, a library, or whatever we can do with it. And I really think that the town should help us to save it, for the simple reason, it's the only thing that stands out in the town of Churubusco. When you come to Churubusco, this is it. It is on the corner,
Yeah.
and that's the only thing. Everything else is just residential housing.
Yeah, it's a focal point when you
Right.
come through here. And so you moved up here for the job opportunities or what?
No, just wanted to get out of New Jersey. as so has everyone else.
I crossed a building on my way through here that said the Summit, and of course, for railroad buffs, this was the Summit. This was the highest spot on the O&LC, the Northern Railroad, and Augsburg and Lake Champlain, Rutland, whatever you want to call it. But this was the top, but you don't really notice it because climbing up here is so gradual. It's such a gradual climb. But my wife and I like to drive through here and head north, and the views you get of Canada when you're heading down the road here is just outstanding. It's just a incredible place. I want to look at before we do this, and I forget to do it. I want to look at the list of the pastors here that are shown here. Ambrose Nolan from 72 to 1877. So that was this was originally St. Philomena's and who? Jerry? Help me. She's busy. St. Philomena and who? There was another saint also involved in the original name.
Bridget.
St. Bridget. And it was changed because they decided that maybe Philomena wasn't really accountable. So it was just a name that kind of popped up and people started saying she was a saint, but they didn't have any record of it happening, right?
I believe, yeah.
So they changed it to its present name or its former name, the Immaculate Heart of Mary Parish. So you had Ambrose Nolan from 1872, so that's 150 years ago. So that's when this diocese was founded. And John O'Rourke, J. Collin, And then 1880 to 1925, 45 years, he's the guy who built this church. They were worshiping somewhere else at the time, and he's the guy who built it. And you said he spent his entire priesthood here, right?
Yes, yep, that's what I read, yeah.
Yeah, so he came here as soon as he was ordained and stayed here right till his final days. And in 1925, he finally left, and whether he died or retired or whatever. Alexander Landry till 1940, Edward Bernier to 1949, Napoleon Brisson to 1950, only a year. Now, I don't know what an admiral reverend is. What's that?
I no idea.
Some Reverend Charles Webb, 50 to 51, Clarence Devan, 51 to 55, C. Albert Richardson, 55 to 70, Frederick Shue, 70 to 83. He renovated the exterior of the church and the rectory. Father Gilbert Menard, from 83 to 93. Father Menard was a teacher at St. Mary's when I was going there in the 60s, and he's a native of Moore's Forks, along with several other Menards. Then Father Howard McCaslin spent out his final years here. He retired, and retired from Holy Angels. That was his last parish, and he came here as administrator and finished out his years here. So that was 2010 or 2011, somewhere around that area there. That once you reach 75, you put in your resignation, and the bishop either accepts it or keeps you working. And
Father McCaslin is the one to say this church as long as because of him, it remained open, and he used to tell them that when he was gone that that the church would close. So I only go back to, I'm not that old, but I remember Father Devan, Father Richardson. You will notice the old cemetery across the street from the church has very few headstones. The cemetery was actually bulldozed while he was here.
That's nice.
I've heard a lot of stories, and I'm not going to say what I heard because I don't know. It's all stories, but anyway, it was done while he was here. Father Shue was an artist, and he was the one that had all of the windows. The windows all needed work to be done. He reached out to the community. The windows were all taken out and sent to Montreal for restoration, all paid for by the community, by the residents and the parishioners of Churubusco. And I was gone by the time Father Menard came, and then, of course, Father McCaslin, when my mother was sick, he used to come and give her communion, often on Friday nights when we were there. So.
Okay, Father Menard, last I heard, is still in the Peru area. I haven't seen him in several years, but he's retired in that area. And we should mention that, this is erected in memory of Israel and Muriel LeClaire and donated by Dale and Ann Selkirk. So I want to give them some recognition. And because we're going to look at the windows here, a lot of beautiful windows here, and something that Celine Paquette and I are going to do in Champlain is the Stations of the Cross, and the windows all have a name underneath, and we're going to try to come up with what we can find out about the people who did that, and families that did that. Yes, so that's what should be done here, is preserve the memories and names of these people.
Where's Chris?
Looks like the plate has been taken off this one.
We got the names as much as we could see them, and many of these people, the descendants of these people, wrote to the bishop and wrote to the town that as descendants of the people who donated this, they would like it kept for the community, not to be pulled off the walls. Or, for example, like the windows, if you look over here, you've got Gagne family.
Yep, there's that Gagne spelling.
Still here that are descendants of that.
Quite a few.
And as Jerry mentioned, they were quite involved. They're the potato farmers that came from Canada a number of years ago.
Oh, everything comes from Canada here with you.
If they got a French name, they go. Well, it wasn't even Canada back then, so.
Canadians in this area.
Yeah, that's it.
I know.
Borders just,
What do you think my relatives are?
My grandfather was Legris or Legris, and my great-grandparents were the hotel. It was called, it was the Tremont, and then when they took it over, they named it the Summit.
Oh, okay.
because it was the highest point on the railroad, yeah. You know, something I find really interesting is that if I say to somebody, I'm from the town of Clinton, they look at me like, oh, well, you must be from Mars, you know?
Yeah.
The minute I mention that I'm from Churubusco, everybody knows.
Everybody knows Busco.
Everybody knows Churubusco. This is, I think, the only town in the county, and I hate to say, is the one that's really, the identity is the hamlet,
Right.
is the village,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah. And, you know, you can have Perry's Mills and Coopersville and Champlain, but nobody's going to remember them as being the town, you know, they're hamlets. All right, so we got some people here, the Brays.
So.
Come over on the left side, because
Okay.
that's where my microphone is when I try to move my camera here.
I'm not going to probably say this right. I don't know if he was the offspring or if it was James Bray, but politician and right-hand man to President William Bray. So a son, and to President Roosevelt, right? Yeah, yeah.
Something like that. Something like that. Boy, you're a real historian here.
Yes, he was, I just, told somebody that, you know.
Yeah, but in the party,
He's in Larry Gooley's book, William H. Bray. Was he lieutenant governor, or governor, or
yeah.
vice president? Vice president of the, yeah.
we've read, well, he probably had different positions, but yeah, these people went on, you know, like, I mean, they were in this community, and there's inventors, there's, look, what Gagne family did with seed potato farming, and they gave back to the community. So they gave back in the form of a church, in the form of a schoolhouse, in the form of different buildings throughout this community. So we're trying to preserve their memory, because if you implode it, if you just rip it out, it's a disrespect to the workmanship, the art, all of that that's been done here, whether you're a person down the street who gave trees for the pews or whatever, or you gave for a statue, it's all beautiful work. And to have it just like this is, you know.
People who gave their blood, sweat, and tears
Yep.
to establish this
Literally,
church.
literally. Whoops,
Careful.
somebody put a
Trying to heat.
heater here to try to trip me up here. So all these stations of the cross are lying gently on the ground here. Well, gift of the young ladies of the parish. Boy, those young ladies had some money.
Yes. Shirley, young ladies of the parish. She's down there. Yeah, the beautiful thing, and as Jerry mentioned, I too remember when they were all pulled out and they were re-leaded. The lead needed to be replaced, and they were pulled out one by one and re-leaded, down in Montreal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
wasn't
that was
here at the
done.
time, but I remember
It
when
was
it happened.
Father
yeah.
Shue, right?
Father Shue,
I think, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and
And the beautiful paintings.
yes, I can't imagine the cost of these windows.
Yeah.
And you can't let them be destroyed. And what else are they going to do with them? They don't want to preserve them.
So Sweeney was
Come on over here, please. So I can. You got notes. There we go.
I got my cheat sheets
There
here.
you go.
So Sweeney was a butter maker way back in 1915, and one of the family members was also in the Civil War. So Civil War veteran as well.
Okay.
The name,
Yeah.
the last name, yes. Yeah, one of the family members.
Yeah, it depends on when these windows were originally put in. If they were put in 1888 or whatever, then you figure the people have to be at least 25, 30 years old. So,
Right.
so
So when I was coming to church here,
just a
there
few
used to be a small altar.
right here.
I
Little
believe
side altar.
I believe it was here, and it was also there. You can see on the floor.
Right.
But I think I think it was here,
Yes.
and then they moved it.
It's in.
And now it's
St. Edmunds or Ellenburg area.
gone to Ellenburg.
Okay. Gift of the League of the Sacred Heart. appropriate gift. This is what the church looks like. These are among the 18 paintings you mentioned here, Jerry, these single paintings.
I'm sorry.
These are among the 18 that you mentioned, these
Yes.
these single individuals
They
here.
had to have been, yeah.
Are there names associated with them, or just a bunch of? No.
Oh, who they are?
Yeah. Just a bunch of anonymous saints. Somewhere.
Probably not, but we
Yeah,
don't
somebody
know who
must
they
have a
are.
name. Yeah.
And I know Shirley wanted me to mention about the organ.
The organ.
The
Okay.
organ up there is built in,
Yes.
and it did play at Father McCaslin's funeral. And somebody did try to play it, but there's a way of, not many people know how to play this type of an organ, and apparently it's built in and cannot be just picked
can't-
up and removed.
Uh-huh. So the Phantom of the Opera. What?
They used to have midnight mass. Used to come to midnight mass, not midnight mass at 8
I
o'clock.
know what midnight mass is. Thank you. I'm
And there was
almost as old as you are.
a gentleman here called John Gagne, who was the postmaster who changed the spelling of Churubusco from C-H-E-R to C-H-U-R. And he used to sing O Holy Night in French. And oh my God, it was like the whole place would be just, can you remember him doing that?
my
And I'm
God,
thinking,
yes.
did anybody, no, probably nobody recorded him, but he was just a
he
nice
was great.
old
He
gentleman.
really was.
Yep.
And I want to tell you about the organ.
Okay.
If they take that out,
There'll be
everything's
trouble.
going to come down.
Oh, it's because it's supporting too. It's not.
It's supporting everything, and if they they talked about it, and I told them at one meeting, I said, if you take that out, everything's coming down.
Well, they could take it out, but they're going to have to do some work to.
Just, the altar is also permanent.
Well, yeah, but a good contractor could figure out a way to do it, but we don't want them to do that.
No, we don't want them to do
Because
that,
goes
no.
right down to the basement.
'Cause I used to sing in that choir.
Did you?
Oh, yeah, my cousin used to play the piano,
Did you sing too?
the organ, I mean.
Years. Can you imagine, Calvin, I started
So,
when I was
well,
9
you
years
two
old.
want to do us a little number here? No?
No, I started very young.
We haven't got the organ, that's why.
Oh, okay. We had- Anybody here play the organ? No?
No, you couldn't play it because there's no electricity.
Oh, okay. You can't
Got a
paddle it?
reason for everything.
You can't paddle it with your feet?
No, no, it didn't have that kind of thing.
So we want to show you the painting, so show you that signature.
Yeah, okay, we'll get it on camera here, but yeah, as we move across.
So the sad part about any churches that are sold is that anything sacred objects like this, like the artwork, would have to be painted over
Yes.
or removed.
You can't remove
they
it.
would paint it over. That's the issue. The windows, removed or destroyed. Altar, same thing, removed, sold to another church, stored or destroyed. I mean, this seems to be, and it doesn't matter who owns it. So you want it, you'll get it as a shell, you'll get the bricks, and there's no windows,
So it has
no
to
sacred
be
objects.
preserved as a
And we
museum
want
type of.
to, preserve it as a museum. It will not be used for profane use, which is the concern. And,
All right. And
yeah,
that little window up there was, we were told off camera, was from the original bishop,
Yeah.
Bishop Wadhams.
so apparently the diocese was in Albany at that time in the 1800s, and this area was growing up until about the 1930s, short of just before the crash, the stock crash. So they found that they needed another diocese, and they opened up Ogdensburg, and Bishop Wadhams was the first bishop of that diocese, and this church was built around the same time.
Yes, well, the diocese was 150 years, so that'd be 1872.
Yeah,
So
shortly after.
Shortly after
Yeah.
1880s is
Yeah.
when this,
Exactly.
okay. and
But
we're
the
gonna-
interesting about the artist,
All right, and I'll shut my camera off here because I'm going to trip if I if I try to record. All right, we are now looking at the one on this side.
there's one up there. beautiful one up there.
Oh, sure, have me bend over backwards.
You want me to take the camera? I'll take the camera. I forgot about that one.
Yeah,
Until I came up, I looked up one day.
that's what looking up.
Yeah.
And it's set so the priest sees it and not the parishioners.
Yeah, you have to be in a certain spot to see it. It's true.
Yes, of course, this altar here was back in the days when the priest had his back to the people.
Right.
Then they put in these other altars when they decided that maybe the priest could face the.
I think the
parishioners.
altar railing is in the basement, isn't it?
I remember that. That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think the
vaguely.
Alden said that.
Okay.
Okay, so this is who was the
yes.
artist?
So we've been hearing
Angelo Metello,
Yeah.
Tello, and
professor.
So when we went to visit Father Menard in his retirement home, he was telling us about the artist, the story that he heard in the 1930s or 1920s, wasn't sure the year, the Italian who was here, was trying to get into Canada, and he was painted a lot of different churches in the area while he waited for his paperwork. So he goes, look for the signature. So Francis and I came, we start looking at all the paintings, and we don't find it. We were really disappointed. We were hoping to find a signature. So then Bernadette comes, she says, look at the leg, look at the leg. We knew it was the right side. So we looked at the leg, and I'm looking, and
there it
I'm
is.
like, do tattoos then? So it looks like a self-portrait. So, yes, Jerry's busy researching more on him, so we're hoping that, we find a little bit more information about him, but
Yeah, we
really cool.
years ago we did a story with Monsignor Giroux at St. Patrick's, and he got into a little bit of the history of that artist and how he ended up painting the church, St. Patrick's in Rouse's Point.
Okay.
So you have a little bit of history and the time period when that happened. So
And this is what we want to save. Why would you paint over a painting? Why would you if anybody's ever cut glass or tried to do a small stained glass project, you'll know how difficult it is. So to do this kind of art and beauty and just implode it, remove it, it's disrespectful to the people who donated. Their families are still here. And even if they're not, they're all willing to donate,
Right.
to take the windows out, refinish whatever we need to do so that they're sealed properly. We're refusing donations, so we want to preserve this because we respect the work, the art, and wait till we go outside and we show you. And Isaac Johnson's story alone is mind-blowing. So there aren't other buildings in this county that have that kind of a story. So the hardships that he faced as a former slave, and then to become a master builder in 2 countries and be a North Country resident, and many other buildings as well that have been built by him, but they're waiting to find the actual documents. You could tell the story. His buildings really do stand the test of time.
And by the way, he has a granddaughter that lives in Dannemora.
oh yeah,
Isaac Johnson's great-granddaughter or great-granddaughter lives in Dannemora. And when Corky Reinhardt did a program about us pre-COVID for CCHA for our annual meeting, when she heard what the subject was, she came to our meeting, our program. Yeah,
you recall her name?
Light, Peg Light. Her husband was he was the historian for the town or the village of Dannemora, Pete Light.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
can't remember. I think maybe Pat. I'm not sure. What my hope is that instead of looking at these as sacred objects that have to be destroyed, that they look at them for the art that they are. I mean, these stained glass windows, it's almost like a lost art in a lot of ways. And the paintings are very special. I mean, if somebody from Italy is interested enough that they're doing research on him, this isn't just some fly-by-night
Oh no. Well,
person that came
obviously.
through and said, "Oh, I'm going to pick
by
you some
numbers."
paintings." I mean, he was special,
There's no
and I
sip
would
and paint
hope
here.
he'd be looked at as these being special and special enough to be saved. So,
Definitely. Yeah, and I can't imagine, you look at this stained glass up here and the stained glass over in that direction there, you can't imagine anything looks any better than in those
Yep.
pieces. All right.
And we're also not trying to be a burden on the town. There's 3 groups. There's our group, with the help of Jerry's Historical Society and Adirondack Architectural Heritage, I mean, we're ready to start going for the grants, the historical status that'll elevate it and get that much better of an opportunity of grants. We know that there's donations that we're holding back and fundraising. So we're looking to restore the bulk of it. So we're talking about the huge amount. All we want is from the town would be to own it and get a building intact. And just the regular operating costs, like a little bit of heating, electric, until we can get this all fixed up, which would take a few years, get a community center, and then we start taking over more of the responsibility. So we're not looking, it would be for everybody. So it's not a church, it's a place for the community to gather, to get together, to have programs, senior programs, it could be work programs, whatever's needed.
Yeah, a
So-
museum or whatever, yeah.
Think of what saving this building can do for this community other than, I mean, I can picture the Gibson brothers, who are from the town of Clinton, by the way.
Right.
You know, they have the perfect stage. And you have the seats, you know, you've got the parking. That I can picture them coming here and doing, I'm not going to say a benefit concert, but a concert here for the residents and what it would bring in to this community.
Getting everybody together in
Yeah.
one place.
And having people come just to see the art and the structure and hear the history. And
We want to document, like a lot of it has been documented. A lot of the work we found was also from Jerry's mother. It was from other people and writing and all that. But we know there's more. We know that Father, hold on.
Menard? Menard?
No, the first one.
Oh.
Murphy, sorry. Father Murphy's story, that I'm determined to find which church he found in, whether it's Italy or in Ireland, that models this long, because that was the first thing that struck me. When we walked in that door, we were little kids, and it's like, huh? How come it's so spread out this way? And, you know, so we're determined to find out more of the links, and I think there's more of a story there.
Okay.
So
So
the
the story is-
community doesn't know all these stories. They know little bits and pieces, but a way of recording this, and that's what the museum's for.
Yeah, so
you
the
know?
story is that he went to Ireland and came up with a concept of
Right.
what this church would look like.
Yeah, and then Isaac Johnson's story, that alone is mind-blowing.
Well, I
But,
think
you know,
there's avenues there,
Yeah,
people trying to, keep the black history alive. I think there's avenues there that would help with the grants and so on.
sure. So there's a reason that this building has become eligible since 2017.
But time is of the essence here.
That's right.
The floors are moving here is from the cold. Yep.
Scary.
Father Murphy's obituary
Uh-huh.
said that
Yes.
that this St. Philomena's Church, that beautiful edifice, which seems to take all of Churubusco under its kindly shadow, will forever remain as a monument to the labors of Father Murphy, who built for the glory of God and raised in that little hamlet where the Master's work took him, a church would do credit to many a large city.
Yeah, that's nice.
What a testament to this
Yeah.
building.
It's not huge in here, but the beauty outside. And actually, when you're looking at it from the outside, you're kind of surprised when you come inside and see it's not quite as big as it looks. It looks bigger outside.
And aren't you, I was surprised when I came in this summer, and it's in as good shape as it is. Because you know abandoned buildings?
Oh,
You
yeah,
know what
it doesn't take
happens?
long.
I expected to walk in here
Yeah.
and see stuff hanging from the ceiling, and it's not. It's in great shape. So
Yeah, it is.
that's also a testament to the people who built it.
But again, it's time is of the essence here.
Yes.
You got to be able to keep saying that. So let's move along and look at some more windows. St. Elizabeth of Hungary, gift of Elizabeth Luby.
So I read that she was very interested in education and furthering the future of young people, and she later became superintendent of school. I'm not sure which county, whether it was Franklin or,
Luby.
yeah.
Elizabeth Luby.
Yes, Elizabeth Luby.
O-B-Y Luby. And Knights of Columbus,
Of course, 1903.
gift.
Yeah, so we could see that windows were done at different years because
Apparently
built.
so, yeah,
You
1903.
see, yeah. I'm sure it took time to collect the money to,
Yeah, they
Have
said
this
these,
made.
these cannot be
no.
an inexpensive undertaking here. All right, we'll move along. Again, the gift of the young, all the young ladies did the other side, so that's when here the young guys got together and said, hey. Well, again, this is just, outstanding. It's beautiful.
As I said, if you've ever tried to make a little small stained glass project, you'll appreciate the effort behind this. And then to be exposed to the elements and
I'm not sure why if I'd put that skull in that centerpiece there, but they did. Sacred Heart there, and there's Immaculate Heart Church, so Immaculate Heart is Mary, and the Sacred Heart is Jesus. Here's a Campbell. We mentioned Campbell's before, and some people say Campbell, and some people say Campbell, and I think the Campbells, they pronounce it with the P sound.
yeah, and Campbell family's still here.
And there's a road.
Yes, Campbell Road.
Yeah.
That's where the stone came from.
Okay.
And yes, there are people in the town council. One person, she's a Campbell.
That was in memory of Mrs. Honora. And again, we got the Stations of the Cross here. For people who don't know, there are 14 Stations of the Cross. Thomas and Honora must have been a popular name back then. Thomas and Honora Heffernan donated this window. Okay, so here's the view from the back. And I think we've looked at all the windows. Is there any more windows? One more window. Whoop, watch your step here. Whoop. We got a hump there and keep the. Okay, there we go.
It's it's starting to buckle, but it's the gift of the young men's sons of parish.
Young men's.
The young men's sons of parish. Young men's parish. Something's not right. But it's a beautiful
This is the
one.
Holy
Yeah,
Family,
look,
yeah.
you look,
Yeah, and that's got to be preserved pretty soon. Or you look right here
Yes,
over on
it's
the
already
right here.
starting. Yeah.
You can see through there.
Well, west wind. I think we're on the west side. Yeah. West wind.
And the wind does blow here in Busco.
It
Have you
does.
noticed that's why you head north
Oh, are you kidding? Yes.
to get out of Busco?
The bell still rings.
The bell still rings.
Bell, okay, would you like to go ring the bell?
You gonna ring the
I
bell?
love
Sure.
the sound of this bell.
All right, I'm gonna bell ring here. I can hear it. People in town are gonna say, "What? Oh, it must be a fire." I gotta tell my Guy Juno joke. Many years ago, a bunch of us decided on Halloween we were grown up, we're in our 20s, and we went around and so we're going to ring the bells at St. Mary's. So George Bombardier and Guy Juno went up to ring the bells, and Guy Juno pulled the bell and hung on to the rope. George says he looked, all of a sudden he sees Guy's feet. So Guy...
Did you ring this bell?
Yeah.
I didn't while I was talking to you. Yeah.
Well, actually, you were
So Chief of Police Albert Morelli showed up, and he was not happy, but there we go.
So it still works.
Yeah, it's not gonna lift anybody up either. What you got there, Jerry?
So in here it talks about, this is the second Town of Clinton book that was done. The first one was done for the bicentennial. My mother was on the committee, Veronica Franklin, I'm sure, and some other members. And this book was done by another history committee. And I don't know who was on it, because I know Veronica, because I said to Veronica, how come you didn't put in the book who was on the committee? But they didn't anyway. But it says here, the two large stained glass windows on the north and south ends of the church were donated by the young men and young ladies of the parish. They raised money by raffles, parties, and by donating their week's wages. This entailed a real sacrifice on their part. 9 of the under windows were gifts of parishioners and groups. The round window representing the visitation was a gift of Bishop Wadhams. So the young men and young ladies of the parish worked hard to raise the money. Can't even imagine what they must have cost
Yeah,
back
I know.
in those days. Yeah.
A lot of quarters.
There, that was another contractor that did that part.
I will back up later and get a view from the road, but you're telling me about the pointing here, huh?
Yeah, Father Menard,
Gilbert Menard, my old
Mr. Legree, and based on Father Menard's father, the recipe, if you look at it, I was looking at, how come there's this dark speckling?
yeah, all
So the
sand.
ore sand.
Ore sand from
And this was done in the 80s?
1980s.
Yeah, it was for the 100-year anniversary, I think they tried to finish it off. And look at it, it is,
Yeah, it's still
perfect.
40 years old and still
it's still great.
looks new.
But later, if you look up this way towards the tower, see the cracks? That was
Oh, yeah.
done with more cement, which was
Uh-huh.
a no-no. And that was another contractor that had done that. And yes, a professional. Yes, a professional. And you could see the cracks because it's the wrong material used for that.
Well, the
All
material,
the way down. And
it
then
has to be
this-
able to expand and contract and so on. So when you
Right.
don't, if it doesn't do that, that's what you get.
Yeah.
You have the same problem. If you use the wrong mortar, your bricks will crack. Well, obviously, in this case, those stones aren't going to crack, so the mortar cracks.
Right. So, yeah.
That's where that bell was that we could vaguely heard inside. So this is the church that people are trying very desperately to preserve. We were here several years ago when this veterans exhibit was dedicated. I believe that's senior housing across the road here.
It's schoolhouse apartment, the combination.
Okay.
Right, so senior and
Senior apartments.
Gagne's had built that schoolhouse in 1910. The
Nin-
Gagne family had built that schoolhouse in 1910. And it used to be able to hold about 40 students, so about 30 of them were Gagnes.
So I don't know. Jerry's gone here, but maybe that's where she went to elementary school before Northern Adirondack came into town. So here's the view of the church. We'll keep backing up here and trying to preserve. If you want to learn more about it, contact the Clinton County Historical Association, or they'll also give us some people to contact here as we get done. I wholeheartedly think that this is architecture worth preserving and history worth preserving. Here's that date, 1888, which would indicate that's when the construction was completed. So, if people are interested in helping your cause here, what should they do?
well,
Well, yeah, that's a deep subject.
Town of Clinton.
Town of
There's a
Clinton.
certain amount there that they can help, of course. But I think the biggest issue is with the diocese and the fact that here's a community that wants to keep the building for the community. We want to preserve it. We're going to respect its sacredness, and yet windows, all these objects that the community donated would be removed. We would get a shell.
You don't want that.
No, absolutely not.
Okay, so is there websites or Facebook pages, or
We have
how do you rally the troops?
we have a change.org petition. If you go on change.org and you type in Churubusco, you'll see the petition.
Spell Churubusco.
Churubusco.
All right.
And the other thing is, talk to the town of Clinton, write to the diocese, to the bishop, whatever you can do.
Right.
We are active in the community. We've been throughout the summer. We're starting to get more communications out. They'll be hearing from us.
So first, The first shot has been fired here. We're going to save this church.
Yeah, the town needs to know that there is an interest, because I think they feel it's only our small group
Right.
here. So they really need to know that there's an interest. And you know, in the end, here's the thing is, if we don't try, we're going to end up with a pile of bricks, a pile of stone that Isaac Johnson put
Yeah.
together beautifully. If we try and you fail, well, you're still stuck with a pile of bricks. But if we
Yeah.
try and we succeed, we have a beautiful community center and a place people can learn the trades to help us, you know, restore what needs to be done.
Right.
So, yeah, looking forward to a concert here.
All right.
Thank you.
I'll make sure Eric and Lee get a. I'll even send one to their sister Erin. People think people want to hear us sing too.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else before I hit the off button as my shivering hand holds this camera?
It's always cold in Churubusco.
Oh, it's cold in Churubusco.
Summer is the third day of August.
It's as I said, the summit here, so you gradually climb up here and you don't realize that it's not like you're going steeply up a hill. You just gradually get up here, but it's the highest point along the former Rutland Railroad between Ogdensburg and Rouse's Point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the cracks and
Yeah.
the
All right.
difference in the workmanship.
We're going to wrap it up here on this November 18th, 2022 in beautiful downtown Churubusco.
So that says 1888, yeah. That's why I'm always going by.
And I thought we'd close with just one final shot from this angle of this church. And Bob told us off camera that this was paid for by the parish in 1 year because of all the donated labor and material. The church was built and paid for. After when it was built and completed, it was paid for in 1 year. So, just an amazing part of the history of the North Country. So this will wrap it up here from beautiful downtown Churubusco.